Hello, welcome back to the channel. So this is going to be another World of Darkness video. This is going to be talking about Mind's Eye Theatre. The sun's out, so the vampires are asleep, so it's safe to spill their secrets, I fear. So anyway, what am I going to be doing? So one of the things I've been planning out and writing a load of scripts for finishing off the disciplines, talking about Montreal with vampire chapters coming out, was a realization that even though I reckon I've been doing vampires since about 1994, so coming up on 30 years, very little of it's actually been tabletop focused. It doesn't mean I haven't had tabletop books, read books, been involved with the background for it. Actually, most of my experience has been playing and running live action games, and most of that has been using the Mind's Eye Theatre system, though I have been using other systems. So I thought I'd put some of that expertise to use and do some videos talking about Mind's Eye Theatre. So today I'm just going to introduce what Mind's Eye Theatre was, talk about basic system, basic mechanics, and in other videos I've got planned is sort of like some of my experiences of running live action games as we start to reopen up as a society and be involved with each other again and go into society and games and stuff. I think there's a great opportunity for games to grow and start to develop, or people that start stuff again. So hopefully, if you are interested in that, you see that kind of like some storyteller guides, problems I've come across, good ideas I've done, and the way I think about it is if I knew now, if I knew then what I know now, how much better my games could have been, my learning and stuff. So, Mind's Eye Theatre. So, where did I start with Mind's Eye Theatre? I started Vampire about 1994. I went to university. I got involved with an organisation called Camarilla UK, running live action games, that I really became a vampire fanatic. So, the first live action book I used was that. Now, this isn't my copy. I recently rebought this again. A bit of nostalgia trip off eBay. And one of the interesting things is there's no artwork in here. The vampire books have also got great and evocative artwork, but as we've seen there, it's kind of photos of people dressed up and playing a vampire, which was really cool. So actually flicking back through this book, it was it's amazing how many of those photos I kind of remembered, and it takes me back to 1996. So that was the first one that came out. Now, I said Camarilla organisation. Now, this was a global organisation. I was part of Camarilla UK, which meant that if you followed a set of rules, like agreed XP spends and like FAQs and stuff, you could take your character to any game you wanted. There's a cap at how much XP you could gain a month. So for example, if you were getting 1 XP a session and it was capped at 6 a month, you could still go to 12 games, but you'd only get the 6 XP. And you can actually take your characters global as well. So at its peak, and I'll talk more in depth about the Camarilla, and it'll come up loads in my videos, at its peak, I mean, I was membership number 307. At its peak, it was over 1,000 membership number. So it had a good run, big impact, and probably had about 30 domains at its peak. So it wasn't just Vampire it ran. So for example, you'd have a domain. So let's pick a Derby, for example. If Derby was a game, you might have Derby domain, and they might be running Vampire. You also any of the Mind's Eye Theatre books, so Werewolf, Changeling. Werewolf and Changeling were kind of the big ones afterwards. But there were other games as well. Mage, I did a lot of Mage stuff. I was technocracy coordinator for the UK at once for Mage, and I personally, my claim to fame was I brought the Sabbat into the game as a playable faction. So we basically ran our own Sabbat games almost alongside the Camarilla games. Did a lot of work with that. And it was a really interesting experience. Worked with the American Camarilla at the time, and it was really cool. And while we were doing that, Laws of the Night came out. Now, what you'll see here straight away is a change in format. So that's a traditional White Wolf book size. So it's obviously a lot smaller in format. So the idea behind this book was it could sit in bags and stuff easily and be taken to games. And this is kind of almost without any of the background in. It doesn't talk about what a prince is or how a game works, anything like that. So it's just the rules. And there were supplements like these fellas, just the book of Ghouls, how to play Ghouls. Then with 3rd edition coming out, we also got updated Lords of the Night book, so as you can see, much thicker than the previous one, but still keeping that small size. Now this had everything in, so it's got your Sabbat clans, it's got your bloodlines, it's got all the disciplines, it's also got a load of background stuff about what games look like. It has some stuff at the back about running a game and like troubleshooting and stuff, but still, I think this book has a really good section at the back about running a game and top tips for storytellers. So that was revised all the way up through Gehenna, and we got all sorts of extra books. The Wraith, like say Changeling, Werewolf, Mage, the supplements, the Sabbat Guide, Camarilla Guide, even so these Dark Ages, and I have ran a Dark Ages game using this book, and one of the best games I've ran. Now Mind's Eye Theatre wasn't the only set of rules that we're running, and I'm going to talk about the Mind's Eye Theatre system before the end of the video, so don't zone out. Certainly where I lived in the northeast of England, there was an independent game which I think was kind of linked to some others running in Middlesbrough. I visited a couple of one-offs at Sunderland University through their role-playing society, and they use different systems. Obviously they had a background in live role-playing and created their own systems, meant to be a bit more fluid than Mind's Eye Theatre. I find Mind's Eye Theatre pretty fast-flowing, to be honest, but yeah, I mean, these games were sort of big 50, 60, 70 people games, fun to take part in. And I know there were a few other sort of towns and cities linked into their own networks as well. So I think the Middlesbrough one, Daughters of Twilight, I think that was the Middlesbrough one. So the Sunderland one was totally independent, run by the university. Daughters of Twilight, I think, was the name of the kind of linked one. Might be some guys from Dundee, Middlesbrough. And One World by Night developed, and UK Masquerade, I think, became like the kind of by night thing. Didn't have much truck with them. They were down south, like Southampton, Isle of Wight. I remember they put on their own big games and stuff. If it wasn't so far away, I probably would have got down to visit them. But for me, I was Camarilla. Even though I was a Camarilla storyteller, I ran an independent Sabbat game, so I could tell different stories, different networks. My Dark Age game was independent as well. And then the world ended. Gehenna occurred, and it was terribly ran. It was awful. White Wolf screwed the pooch. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I've got a whole load of other videos on my feelings about it. White Wolf, yeah, just utterly failed at the opportunity they had. It'd be worthwhile saying as well, before that, the Camarilla was White Wolf's fan group, official fan club, and White Wolf decided to sue it and stuff, and it was nasty. So yeah, so the Camarilla, I think, changed its name. Don't know what became in the USA. Certainly in the UK, it became known as Isles of Darkness. So the world that was, the old world of darkness, died, and we got the Requiem setting. So boom, a whole set of books for Requiem, and a big shift in the change in how the system works. Now I really like Requiem. Very toolboxy. It's everything the World of Darkness should have been. Requiem makes a great tabletop game, but I don't think it made a great live action game. In terms of the linked, if you're running a single domain, Requiem's great, but the Camarilla and the Sabbat had overarching organisations, which meant you could link games. Requiem kind of didn't have that, so it felt a bit staid to me. And after a few years, I think I played Requiem for about 4 or 5 years. After that, I kind of stopped live role playing. In the meantime, though, Glasgow's got one of the probably longest running independent live role playing games in the world, the Glasgow Vampire GV LARP, and I jumped into that a few times. There was another independent game in Glasgow as well, which I was involved with, and they stayed old world. Unfortunately for me, the night they play it on Wednesdays, I'm really busy, so I can't commit to going. But that was they use a system which is based off tabletop. I can't quite remember what system they run. It's been a few years since I went. But if you're in Glasgow and you want to try a Vampire live role-playing game, I thoroughly recommend the GV LARP. So anyway, let's talk systems. At its heart, Mind's Eye Theatre is really simple. You will have 753 as your basic characters, physical, mental, social, and you'll have attributes. So on the face of it, it looks a lot like your tabletop character, so you can convert it. Now, when you do a test, let's say we're going to have a fight. I am going to try and punch you, so I'm going to risk one of my physical traits. In this case, I'm brawny enough to land my punch and cause some damage to you. You, however, want to dodge the punch. You are dexterous enough to dodge out the way. We're then going to do a stone, scissors, paper test. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Win, lose, or draw. If I win, I've punched. If we draw, obviously you're going to lose if I win, so you're going to take the result of the challenge. If we draw, we compare traits. In this case, I've got 7 traits. You've got 5 traits. I've won the test. Now, abilities allows you to have some retests. So we're brawling situation there, so you could have brawl. So you've lost a test, you say, I want a brawl retest, in which case we'll go again, stone, scissors, paper, boom, win, lose, or draw. Now some disciplines will impact this differently, especially the physical disciplines. So for example, Potence has a win all ties. So if I've got Potence and I'm trying to punch you, and you've got 7 physical traits, and I've got 5, and we've both pulled paper, and I've got the win all ties, I'm going to win that interaction there. Potence and Celerity does this. You also get another symbol called the bomb. So bomb blows up paper and it blows up rock, but it gets cut by scissors. So you've got ability retests, some discipline powers, and then you've also got some other things like overbids. So for example, if I'm an elder and I'm rocking 12 or 13 traits, and I know you've only got, say, 5 traits, then if I'm fairly confident I'm double yours, I can call for an overbid as well, which means that I get another retest as well. And traits are spent, and willpower basically allows you to refresh your pools as well. And you say quite a simple system, stone, scissors, paper, describe what's happening, and the traits meant that rather than a traditional live role-playing event where you're physically hitting with swords and blocking with shields and casting your magic, you are putting a descriptor onto the action. So it's not just I punch you, I do X, I use a trait to do X. And you can really start kind of describing your character with those. Now, what I discovered when we were in lockdown and I was running games over Facebook Messenger, dead simple. I mean, I'll talk about this in another video. Facebook Messenger, opened up a video call, so I got my 4 people on the screen, and it worked really well, apart from the dice rolling. And the dice roll didn't really give us a paused system. It was either I rolled the dice or the player rolled the dice, and we didn't have a dice camera set up, so we just played off trust as players. You know, with collaborative storytelling, it's their game as much as mine, so I just took it on trust what the dice was, and it was V5 we were playing. Now I don't know how V5 would translate to live roleplay, but it's V5 we were playing. I'd created Philadelphia, and it was good, but I didn't like that dice rolling. It felt uninteractive. So another game I've recently ran was Mage, where we play technocracy agents, kind of dealing with supernatural threats and troubleshooting and stuff and investigations. And I wanted something a bit more interactive, which is when I thought, Mind's Eye Theatre. And what we all had was a card. It's a card, stone, scissors, paper, form cards. So when it came to testing, we went 1, 2, 3, and we put a card up at the screen so we could see. It was a lot more interactive. It felt a lot more engaging than just a talking head or looking at a dice roll and stuff. Like I say, I don't know, just as a step back, we wanted to experience the V5 storytelling system, and we did. I really like the Hunger Dice mechanic. I don't know how I would translate that to a Mind's Eye Theatre just yet, but then I've not given it much thought other than when I was thinking about this video, what would happen. So there we are, that's a brief introduction to Mind's Eye Theatre. I looked at the books, talked a bit about the system. Hopefully, as you've seen there, I've got a depth of experience of Mind's Eye Theatre that I want to share with you. And it's also an opportunity. I do these videos as a hobby, and I do like chatting about the things I'm interested in. Obviously, else I wouldn't be doing this. So I do these videos to get all the stuff I'm thinking about out and hopefully have some dialogue. So if you do want some dialogue, ask me questions, chat about it on the YouTube channel, do so. I do enjoy chatting and answering questions, and I do my best to answer all the questions. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you again in another video. The next few videos I'm going to do is some disciplines. I've got like obfuscate, potent, and protean written, so I'll be doing some of those, a player's guide, like a bit of overview with them. And then I've got some really cool stuff with Montreal ready to drop, because obviously Vampire Chapters is set in Montreal, and that's going to come soon, a couple of months, so I'm looking forward to receiving that. As you see, I keep going into the sun, so I can't be a vampire. Anyway, and on that bombshell, I'll leave you to it. You have a great time, and yeah, I look forward to chatting to you. Bye for now.